In the darkest nightmare hour, when not moon nor sun has risen, I take Zelda in my power. I shall keep her in my prison.
Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're taking a look at the 10 video game consoles that have almost no games. Do note that we are not including home computers, nor are we including gimmicky consoles like the Coleco Telstar Arcade. Those obviously have either way too many games, or not enough games to even consider. Before we begin, we publish new videos all week long, so be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. The Panasonic 3DO. Today, Panasonic is known largely for its products in rechargeable batteries, construction vehicles, and more. It's almost hard to believe the corporation did try their hand at console manufacturing at one point. Launching just before the Nintendo 64 and Sony PlayStation thrust us into the world of 3D gaming, the 3DO released in 1994. Despite the amount of money spent on marketing, no one was willing to buy this machinery. The console would be discontinued roughly 2 years after launch, and within that lifespan, 3DO owners only saw a bit over 250 games released. It all goes downhill from here, folks. You think this is bad? You ain't seen nothing yet. The Phillips CDI.
Lucky shot! Golly!
The Phillips CDI is a great way to get Zelda fans to shudder easily. Yes, this was the infamous console that brought us hits like Zelda, The Wand of Gamelon, Link, The Faces of Evil, and Zelda's Adventure.
I can't give credit. Come back when you're a little, richer.
And us Mario fans haven't forgotten about Hotel Mario either. Needless to say, no one liked this console on account of its awful visuals and horrendous controller. Surprisingly, it lasted 8 years on the market, and its library grew to a size of roughly 200 titles. Nowadays, the console and the 4 aforementioned games are collector's items going for hundreds of dollars, for some reason.
Now you will see the sand kroomies that prevent your approach to Ganon. Go with many blessings.
The Sega CD. We'll forever cherish the Master System, Genesis, Dreamcast, and Saturn, but there were 2 other consoles squeezed in between those 4 that have been largely forgotten. The Sega CD was one of those consoles. Well, it was a sort of console. This piece of hardware would attach to your cartridge-based Genesis and was able to play CD-ROM games. Alas, the value of this investment was dependent on your unquestioning love for Sega. Sure, you could enjoy games like Sonic CD, the Lunar RPG series, and Night Trap. But a good chunk of the catalog worth owning was just enhanced ports of Genesis games. 200 games isn't a bad size to go for, but the CD could have done way, way better.
Prove me!
The NeoGeo Pocket Color. When looking at the history of this handheld, you could see the writing was on the wall. This console was destined for death. The NeoGeo Pocket Color was months behind the Game Boy Color, launching in March 1999 in Japan and August 1999 in North America. Having already lost the Japanese market, SNK scrambled to try and get a foothold on the North American market. Alas, they only managed to sell enough units to generate just a little bit of profit for SNK USA. For those that bought in, players saw only a little over 70 games. The NeoGeo Pocket Color was discontinued less than a year after it launched. The Atari Lynx. A couple of months after Nintendo launched the very first Game Boy, Atari released their own handheld, the Atari Lynx. Yeah, we're not sure whose idea it was to go with this weird layout either. At first glance, the Lynx looked as if it was made from parts of World War II radios. Folks probably saw it the same way and gave it a disgusted look after seeing the $180 price tag. Come on, Nintendo was selling the Game Boy for half the price. The Lynx was such a commercial failure that it only ever saw a little more than 70 games made. The Game Boy, on the other hand, would get more than 1,000. Yeah, the difference is night and day, basically. The Atari Jaguar. When looking at the library for Atari Jaguar, things looked pretty promising. Aliens vs. Predator, Doom, Rayman, Theme Park, even some of the racing games looked neat. But just like the 3DO, the Atari Jaguar doomed itself by launching way too late in the 32-bit era. Folks had already bought their SNES and Sega Genesis, each with libraries bigger than whatever the Jaguar was about to get. The console only lasted 2 years on the market before Atari flipped the table and walked out the door. Today, the Jaguar has seen a small homebrew market crop up, but it has been widely forgotten by the world. So the 50-game catalog has kind of grown since then, albeit in unlicensed titles. The Sega 32X. Honestly, we're shocked the Dreamcast didn't take a spot on this list. Despite only being on the market for less than a year, the Dreamcast still managed to get more than 600 titles. The Sega 32X, on the other hand, could barely meet a fraction of that. Looking at a library of only about 40 games, one has to wonder what in the hell happened. Well, it was the lack of support. While this was a neat attachment for the Genesis, Sega just simply abandoned the hardware without question. What, were we really supposed to play Knuckles Chaotix all day? Even one Sega executive admitted that the company had, quote, overpromised and underdelivered, end quote. The Megaduck, aka the Cougar Boy. Yes, that is actually the alternative name to this. Never heard of this console before? Well, that's because the market for the Megaduck was super limited. This handheld was manufactured by Wellback Holdings, which was based in Hong Kong, and was only sold primarily in the Netherlands, Germany, and Brazil under different names. The most interesting aspect of the Megaduck is in just how small the library is. At the time of this video, only 24 games are known to have been made. However, the notation numbers on the cartridges indicate there were 37 and possibly more. The Virtual Boy. Nintendo once explored the idea of virtual reality gaming, though it was kind of a half-hearted attempt. The Virtual Boy has long been the most notorious console ever made, as it caused physical stress on players. Some even experienced headaches and eye pain. Launching in 1995, the system was discontinued in Japanese markets within a couple of months after launch. North America's version would get discontinued roughly a year into its life cycle. Within that short time frame, the Virtual Boy only saw 22 games developed and released. The NeoGeo Pocket. No, we aren't double dipping. The NeoGeo Pocket was the Game Boy to SNK's Nintendo. You had this tiny handheld that only displayed visuals in monochrome, and honestly, it made the Game Boy look supreme. And by the time it launched, the Game Boy Color was already out. No kidding, the Pocket only came out in Japan and launched 10 days after the Game Boy Color did. Needless to say, the console bombed, and it bombed hard. SNK discontinued it within the year as they quickly pushed out the NeoGeo Pocket Color. And how many games did the ultra minuscule player base get? A measly 9 games! 9! Womp womp. Did you get to try any of these consoles for yourself? Let us know down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to MojoPlays for more great videos every day.
Now you must die!
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, there's more where that came from.